Welcome back. Welcome back to the platform on this Thursday, the eve of the weekend. Once again, hi to our friends over in Bridgetown, Barbados, already locked in the developments, political and election developments over in Dominica. Interest for citizens across the Caribbean. Good morning to Barbados, already tuned in, and hi to our friends in Rosa, Dominica as well. Good morning to Connie, who is up at Jolly Lane. Hi to Tony as well. Tony is in Tarish Pit, is it? No, Tony is in Gutter Village. And hi to our friends in Tarish Pit as well. Tarish Pit also referred to as Purple City. Good morning, Dominica. Let me just stick a pin here before I bring on my guest who is already on the Flow Video platform. Our very first guest on this morning's program, focusing on the Dominica developments, was Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, Speaker Emerita, Honorable Alex Boyd Knight. However, she has cancelled at the last minute. We're told she is not satisfied, to put it frankly, with my other two scheduled guests. Apparently, she was miscommunicated with, and she was not told that we would have the leader of the opposition and a concerned citizen, so she has opted out of the discussion this morning. Our intention was to balance the argument, balance the discourse as we normally do. We've had a friend of the show, former government minister R.T. Martin here. We've had political scientist Peter Wickham. So on this occasion, we have Lennox Linton. We have another special guest who is already on. I'll introduce him shortly. And we were hoping to balance it off with Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, Speaker, but she's not coming on this morning. That's fine with us. We have a young man who is well equipped to fill any chair, and I move on now to him. He's already on the Flow WhatsApp platform. Mr. Clement Marcellin is a former senator over in the Parliament of Dominica, and he is a concerned citizen. Young man, good morning. Thanks for agreeing to come on.
Good morning to your viewers and listeners. Sakapek. Moi, c'est de tout bail bon avec.
Toujours bien pourtant, moun parler créole, nous savons, nous acceptons parler créole, pour Dominique, qui parler créole, tout bonnement. So, merci à Chai, bonjour, bienvenue.
Merci à Chai aussi.
All right.
It's always good being here, and we're looking forward to a great discussion.
Absolutely. There's lots happening over in the nature of Dominica. Quick turn of events. Before we go there, tell us about yourself. Who is this Clement Marcellin?
Well, I'm 38-year-old Dominican politician, environmental specialist, as well as an entrepreneur, project manager. But I'm one who really stand by the values and principles that have been instilled in me from a very early age. I am also one who is quite obdurate when it comes to standing up for the people and ensuring that the well-being of all people is always represented. But most of all, I'm a father of a 9-year-old daughter who's always supportive and who I'm always proud of. So in a nutshell, that's me. I'm an easygoing person. When it comes to serious times, I will pull up my boots. But when it comes to relax and recline and have a discussion with the elderly, have a discussion with the young people, be there for individuals in time of need, that is what drives me. That is what most people know me for.
Well-rounded Clement Marcellin, if you ask me. Looks like a well-rounded young man. Let's move on. Lots to talk about. I'll go there next. A little Sisserou Parrot, if I want to call him that, have whispered that you may be contesting the leadership of the United Workers' Party, the main opposition in Dominica. Truth or not? What can you say about that?
Well, I doubt the Sisserou Parrot to do that. Our national bird is one which is quite reserved and quiet. That is one you would find well nested or settled in the top of the deep verdant forest that we have. Yeah. So for it to do so, it would be something special. Yeah. So, but yes, I have been nominated for such position. There are other nominees, and I'm just looking forward to the delegate conference where the delegates would make the determination of whether or not I get the green light to further contribute to my country and my party.
Well, when that time comes, we will be sure to reconnect with you again to speak your vision and plans for the organization. But let's play the wait and see and hold on for the delegates conference.
So we're already endorsing me then.
That's fine. Let's talk some of the political happenings now. November the 6th, your Prime Minister Roosevelt Skerrit, who's been at the helm for about 18 years now, his Dominican Labour Party for about 22 years, calling a snap election. Last time you were at the polls was in 2019, and you were not expected to go back to the polls not until 2024. Your views on the current developments in Dominica?
Well, it came out of many Dominicans as well. Already the ruling government enjoys or expresses a two-thirds majority, more than a two-thirds majority in Parliament, considering the economic downturn, considering what has been going on globally, taking into sharp focus as well the need for political stability in any country and how that stability can now dictate the overall inflow of investment, and then to go into an election where the reforms that were promised has not been implemented, and even on that, to be so insensitive in the time where the hurricane season, still in the hurricane season, and we have in the east flooding and landslides, and people's lives are being affected. One man had passed away in that time, and the most appropriate response to this was to call a snap election for what? For political benefit. It really is concerning. It is disheartening, and the mood on the ground is that a lot of Dominicans are still in shock. Those of us who are strong enough to stand up and speak about it are doing it, but there are a lot of people silently just can't really believe that is what is going on, and it's very, very concerning. For me, it's a very sad day, and I can hope that this can be turned around to the benefit of the country.
Yeah, supporters of the Prime Minister would say it's good political strategy, but it came as the country was dealing with a trough system. Many people lost their homes. Why do you think it was perhaps insensitive by him to call it at that particular time?
Well, political strategies good political strategy doesn't equate to economic development. In my mind, I think that the most important thing, and we as a people, a Caribbean people, we need to also consider that. We look at all the fanfare and the pump that is associated with the political campaigns, but how many of them how many of us take away the message, take our focus on the policies? How many of us assess the individuals putting themselves up for public office? And then it then translates to our standard of living in our country. Our country, we're still at a minimum wage of $4.05. And then one may say good political strategy, yes, good political strategy, but at whose expense? At the end of the day, it's always the people who suffer. And I think we need to move away from those things. We need to start thinking about how is it that we are going to together, collectively, we move our country forward. So, for example, in that case, you want to catch an opposition blindsided, right? But guess what? It's the opposition that will look at the plans that you are prepared or the policies that you are prepared. Look how it's going to impact the populace and be sure that they call for better. So when I am as an opposition senator asked that something be done better, who benefits? Everyone, regardless of what side of the aisle that you serve. And we need to think of that as holistically, as opposed to playing. And that is one of the areas where democracy will always be attacked, not only at risk, because I am of this belief that democracy is always at risk. Is how many of us are willing to stand to guard of democracy? How many of us are willing to protect it? How many of us are ready to say, no, we can do better as a people? No, that political division cannot continue to exist. And it may be, yes, again, I come back to reiterate, Yes, good political strategy, but let's look at the sensitivity in it. How did you consider these people? How is it that you are going to flatten the hopes, the minds, and even the aspirations of your young people by doing something which is quite deceptive? I would choose my country over politics every day, every time.
Yeah, and thanks for that. And just a bit, I'll question you to get an appreciation of what's the mood on the ground in Dominica, from Goodwill all the way up to Mao and maybe across the Soufriere, from the ordinary citizen on the ground. We'll get your feedback on that in just a bit. But let me get your views on the election call. November the 6th was the date. The Prime Minister, a few hours before, he would have received a letter from former magistrate who was doing all the work with the Electoral Reform process. And hours after he received that letter, he called the general elections. Are you fearful that perhaps your Prime Minister was a bit worried on the direction that the country is heading, the proposed release of the Constitutional Reform report by Justice Dennis Byron, that he decided to preempt the presentation, so to speak, and call a general election?
I agree with you on that, and then it brings back the whole question of political strategy and political maneuvers. Yes, I am of the view that we, as the opposition, had discussions with Mr. Byron. We had the Electoral Commission, who was in constant engagement with Mr. Byron, and some of the recommendations were on par with where we want to be as a mature democracy, where we want to be as a forward-thinking people, and those reforms were well intended to ensure that Dominica's election is done in an appropriate way. We also have the recent opinion from the Caribbean Court of Justice, which is our senior appellate court, pointing out that the elections should not continue with similar tints. This may sound cliche, but it's what we have to go on again. And even he, Mr. Skerrit, reckoned that it was a vexing issue. It was no longer a vexing issue because it would have not been because of his knowledge that those reforms would cause him to work harder and would definitely cost him an election. He may have just pushed that switch to ensure that he buys some more time. Some more time to do what though? Because we had 83 in the Parliament of Dominica, and still you are not able to move the country forward. And it's something of really selfishness, if I have to say it that way. And it doesn't really tell well for the country itself.
Yeah, Clement, allow me to use your words. You said that he hit the switch. In hitting that switch, do you think it was a slap in the face of Sir Dennis Byron, who was just about to prepare a report, having been paid in excess of $400,000 of your tax-paying money? Was it a slap in the face of Dennis Byron and in the face of democracy and all Dominicans to have promised electoral reforms, and at the verge of these reforms being tabled and being presented publicly, you hit that switch according to you?
Well, I don't think it's a slap in the face, though. I think it's more than that, maybe an uppercut, a real hard punch in the face. Because I was thinking about the reputational risk that Mr. Byron is now exposed to, and he, as a real respectable person around the region and the world, should really, well, I would really empathize with him. But that would only come if in the event that he comes out early and take control and speak out publicly on those issues. Because if it's not done, then we all have to ask a question: is it a real, true conspiracy? We need to understand the plans were delayed after delay after delay, even in consultation with us. And as soon as it came out, that comes out. But I would err on the side of caution, and I would say Mr. Byron is what he has professed to be over the years. I would now pass the blame on Mr. Skerrit because he's so deceptive. I'm not sure that anybody could any real truth from his utterances these days. And it is sad, but that's the current reality. And we can only hope that the region starts speaking out, because the only thing which is necessary for evil to continue is that good men sit by and say nothing, as in the words of Edmund Burke. Yeah.
I think we have to be fair, and you're all right. We have to be fair to Justice Byron, because his appointment and his task was clouded by COVID. We had 2 years of COVID. To be fair to him, he did not have that smooth highway of opportunity to do his work. And in our discussions with him, Clem, just hold on for me for a while. He has said that what he did was not just review the Constitution and make recommendations. In that time, he also spent significant time drafting the legislation. So he was not just prepared to present a report, he was also presented with that report draft legislations for your parliament, just to be fair to him. But with all what's happening now, I think you're absolutely right. Sooner than later, it would be fair to the people of Dominica first and all other observers across the Caribbean if Sir Dennis Byron were to come out and clarify a lot of these matters. The issue of constitutional electoral reform, what's your main gripe there? What do you think Dominica is most missing in the reform process?
I think is a clean and a registration list, a list of electors. Dominica, the current electoral, current list has 76,000 registered voters.
You don't have that number of citizens on Dominica.
Dominican current population is estimated of 72,000. So how is it that the list of elected voters is much more than the population of the island? It assumes two things which are almost impossible. One, that every child which is born is of the age of 18, and Dominicans don't die. I know we have a high rate of centenarians per capita, but this is not really realistic. So this is what is one of my main concerns with that. The other one is that anyone could just walk in. So you have dead people on the list. I know family members who have died 20 odd years are still on the list, and we have sent in requests to the electoral office to get that list, get them off the list. Would they still appear on the list? Anyone could walk in and go into a polling station, recite a name, John Brown, and vote and cast a vote. The most that could happen is one of the agents object and say, you are that person. The objection is written into the poll book, but the vote still cast. And this cannot be accepted in this moment. And there are a lot of monies have in excess of 4 million have been spent for that reform process, where the equipment was purchased, and now I'm hearing that it has been sitting there so long that it become faulty, and we may have to consider purchasing new equipment for the development of voter ID cards. And in any mature democracy, any right-thinking citizen will understand that the system can be rigged, and it would not be fair for any political party right now to go into an election without those reforms.
Yeah, the picture that you just painted for us of your electoral process is a real scary one that leaves room for exploitation if that is in fact what exists. You don't have a voter ID, and you have more people on the voters list than what obtains for the population of the country. Very, 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 very troubling picture that you just painted. What are Dominicans on the ground saying? When you visit Jolly Lane and other parts of Goodwill, when you go over to Soufriere and Mao, what's the response from the ordinary man to the snap election?
Well, I can also bring to sharp focus when I walk the streets of Penville, Bakers, and Tibu, the people that I try representing. Although they are pro-labor, they love me a lot. I just want to also reach out to them and say I'm there standing them. A lot of them would come silently and say, boss, we need to get this done. Why didn't we put in that electoral reform? And I'm saying you are in the best position, and I want to remind Dominicans, we are in the best position to ensure that this happens. Because, there's that tendency to believe that those we have entrusted to represent us are the ones with the power. But no, the power always rely on the people, and we are asking Dominicans to call out, come out and break that fear that exists, that resident fear that exists, and let us really speak peacefully. Let us ensure that we can ask for those. But what we have seen, the people are calm, as Dominicans are very peaceful people. And I'm concerned about the overall direction that the country will move from here in support.
Yeah. Over the last 22 years, observers would have noticed that the ruling party, the ruling Dominican Labour Party, has managed to take control of a number of state apparatus. And as you say, speaking to Dominicans, they talk to you, but they don't want to come out publicly in fear that they might be victimized. How has the regime been able to maintain such control that the Prime Minister publicly says Dominica is Skerritt's country?
Well, in the absence of reform again, where you have campaign financing issues or concerns, and also the use of public property as a campaigning tool. So, for example, the government uses the resources of the country to grant a home fair and well to those who are in need. But when that home is now held against you as that you must vote for me because I gave you a house, you must vote for me because I placed this road, you must vote for me because I send your child to school, or I give you, you are 70-year-old and we gave you $300, which is as part of our safety programs. And make no mistake, there will always be those who are in need of that kind of security, even at that vulnerable age. But when it is used against you or weaponized against you and held above your head that you must come out to vote for me because I gave that to you, this is how incumbency is being abused, and allow the government to really enjoy an unfair advantage over any political party who is campaigning.
Thanks for that, Mr. Marcellin. And let's open up our phone lines, 4500-777, the in-studio number. We're talking Dominica elections. Clement Marcellin, former senator, former candidate of the United Workers' Party as well, and a concerned citizen. My guest is this hour. Your organization, the UWP, Clement, has said that it's standing down. It will not participate in this election, and you have asked citizens of Dominica to stand down as well. Are there any plans by the organization to hit that red switch and take to the streets, ensure that the voices and the concerns are heard loud and clear?
Well, this evening there is a massive gathering in the main town, Roseau, on the Bayfront, starting at 3 o'clock. We just have to encourage our individuals to come up and turn up in large numbers to those rallies and really stand in solidarity with each other and ensure that we call for a better Dominica, a better electoral process, and that's what our party has been about, and that is what will continue, the direction in which we will continue as we seek to serve honestly our people.
Yeah, it's a peaceful gathering this evening?
It will always be a peaceful gathering.
Okay.
There are things of food to always and then again, that's what I also want to step out and point out, that I will always stand up and condemn any form of violence, be it physical violence and violence. But very seldom you find individuals coming to stamp out or condemn psychological violence. And our people have been plagued with this type of violence for a long time, and no one is speaking out about it. Why is it that the campaign is always to ridicule the opposition? Why is it that the campaign is always to put us in a bad light? And to what benefit is it to have individuals, young people, being conditioned to think that they are the worst set of people? And guess what? The country is divided straight down the middle, and we are stuck in an economic morass, and we're not moving forward. to what benefit is that? And we find when the physical violence come up as a response to the instigation, everyone wants to jump and condemn. But I think we need to start at the root cause and nip it from the bud.
Yeah. You optimistic that good sense will prevail and citizens of Dominica stand down from the election? 5 years governance of the country is at stake here. Do you anticipate what we saw in 2019 where there is some unrest in the streets of Roseau and elsewhere because so much is now at stake for the citizens of Dominica?
But what I could call for, and I want to take the opportunity to call for peace and good sense, and everyone remain calm on the island. We are peaceful people. However, you also want to remind it it's the right to protest, and protest can take any form. A returning officer deciding to stay home, people at the electoral office deciding not to take part or not to work. These are protests as well. So the violence is no place for violence. You can't use a wrong to justify another wrong. However, I call on Dominicans to stand for the country.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Clement. The civil groups in Dominica, the trade unions, what are these movements saying? Where do they stand? Mr. Marcellin is with us still?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay, excellent. You're back on now.
Yeah. I'm saying they are doing their part, and everyone with a voice, every Dominican, every right-minded citizen with consciousness, we ask all of them to come out and let their voices be heard even louder towards that cause.
Yeah. Let's talk about the candidates of the governing party. Well, not the candidates, but his slate and his approach to this election on the 6th of December. 10 new candidates announced on the slate this time around. What does it say about the performance of the former members of his administration being sacked 3 years into their 5-year term?
Well, that is not the first time it has been done. The 2019 as well, there were 11 of them who were replaced. And this time we're seeing a more youthful participation in that regard, where a lot of them are brought in at the expense of the older guard. It is again a political move. Mr. Skerritt has realized that he's getting of age, and his youthfulness has can no longer impact him in ways like before, and then he is really trying to ride on the backs of the young people to get him into that place, in my own assessment of it. And it's you can't put, should you put new wines in old bags or old vats, it just can't work. So I think he dubbed it as a reset, but in my full assessment and discussion of the young people, with the young people from all walks of life in our island, it should be a eject rather than a reset.
Yeah. I like how you put it. You can't put wine in the same old vases, but some people might tell you it depends on how you like your wine, Clement. But nice, nice one there. 10 new candidates he will present on the 6th as part of the election day apparatus. You hopeful that Dominicans will come out? If they don't, December the 6th will come. Your Prime Minister will go to the polls. What next for democracy in Dominica and the movement of the Commonwealth forward?
Well, I think if this happens, the international community should take particular note in what's going on in Dominica, and the pressure that should come if the good men rise and decide, better Dominica deserves. The government would have to call fresh elections sooner than we think. That is my whole assessment of it. And we, as Dominicans, we would we would be encouraging them to stop, think, especially to the president, that they can act and in a way to keep our country to place our country on a better trajectory and to ensure that the lives of Dominicans continue to improve.
Yeah. Does your party have any interest in writing to the international community on this matter?
We have written many letters. I'm not in the position to really divulge to who and where, but we are doing the best that we can with the limited resources that we have at hand at this time. We can only hope that they would clean onto our request and act expeditiously.
Yeah, let's take this discussion just beyond the shores of Dominica for a bit, because we observers are monitoring a trend within the Caribbean region. It happened in up north in Jamaica with Prime Minister Andrew Holness and his Jamaica Labour Party calling a snap election and really taking the PNP there by surprise, controlling the majority again. In Barbados, the Prime Minister Mia Motley as well did the same with her Barbados Labour Party. And you're now seeing the same in your Commonwealth of Dominica if the Labour Party of Prime Minister Skerrit. Are you observing a dangerous trend here in the Caribbean region where politicians continue to wield enough power to call elections as they please? Is there anything concerning there for you?
It is a great concern, but however, let's go back a little. It is within the ambits of the law that the Prime Minister has that power to do so. So then you are now where, if in this case it requires constitutional reform, and to come to what is happening now, we're seeing an affront on democracy, because if the opposition is caught with its pants down, as the saying is, there's grave concern, because the opposition is all of us. We are the ones to say, hey, your plans are good, but however, you could do better, or this doesn't benefit Dominica. We would want you to revise and reschedule, reorganize that particular policy to fit us. So if your guard of the guard of democracy is a slip or an unfortunate position, how is it that it would be beneficial to our country? And again, we have known that governments tend to always want the opportunity to run roughshod over the people. And it is something that we as a mature people need to sit and discuss. We need to ensure that plans of each party are properly distilled, are properly digested by the people, and the people make the right choice. Calling a snap is really taking away the power of the people to really assess and select those they want to entrust their future into, and that is something that is counterproductive in my whole assessment of it. It may be politically savvy, but to what benefit? And then we always want to look at the advancement of our countries, our advancement of our nation, and ensuring that our region remains buoyant in times of serious adversities. Yeah. We have seen people clinging on to power, but not clinging on to progress and ruling over decadence, as opposed to ruling over prosperity.
Yeah. Clinging on to power, not clinging on to progress. And let me just take in one comment from one of our online contributors and then ask you the next question. Somebody saying that they hope Mr. Marcellin wins the leadership of the party as a young man. Since you're saying you cannot put old wine in whatever, because President, the front runner for the leadership of the party that will take place on the 27th of November, is a 60-plus-year-old man. I'm not sure you have any feedback for that. I doubt Clement does.
I can only say it's not just young. It's not just being young. It's not just being young. Young is an attribute. Yes, it will in politics it serve you well, but one must stop and look at the experience that is coupled with the personality and the attributes and the principles that I hold dear to. I am an honest person. I am somebody who always speak my mind. I am somebody who is trustworthy. I stand high on values of integrity, and as well, I have made a lifetime of work where I've served in senior capacities whether it be for the government of the Commonwealth of Dominica. I served on many boards. Currently, I am serving on the National Credit Union as a vice president of Dominica Cricket Association, a director of the Windwards Cricket Board, which is also contributing to cricket and cricket development in the sub-region as well. I'm an entrepreneur, and I also work as a project manager up to postgraduate level. So it's not just, I may be young, but there's a lot that going I'm riding on as well.
Yeah. Given what you're seeing in your country now, is there benefit for democracy and for the region on a whole for us to have a set dates for the hosting of general elections?
Yes, that is one of the areas that would really help us as smaller part, and as well, we're not speaking only of the existing opposition, but smaller parties, more democracy, the result towards democracy. So having a set date will allow individuals to mobilize resources for campaigns, because campaigns are not that cheap. As well, I want to stick a point in one of the reforms that Mr. Dennis Byron is also bringing forward is really trying to quantify the campaign and ensure that there is a cap on campaign financing, as it is perceived that a sovereign state, you don't want outside influence to really impose on your country due to the fact that they are able to sponsor an electoral campaign for any particular party. And that is a very crucial aspect, because we have seen our campaign costs skyrocketing, and no one is stopping to ask what is the risk, the inherent risk of having that phenomenon occurring. And it is very important for us to realize that the big monies into campaign can really lead us to greater concerns and constraints, and at the end put us at an unfair position.
Yeah, so you're getting good support online. Some more comments here, Clement. Somebody saying Mr. Marcellin deserves a chance to be the leader of the opposition. And somebody also adds, yeah, Clement, good job. So a number of Dominicans apparently are tuned in and providing tremendous support for you this morning.
Thank you.
What are the domestic challenges like on the ground? Because your Prime Minister would say it's almost like milk and honey over in Dominica. You just had a massive return of the World Creole Music Festival. Things are all right, and people have money in their pockets. What's the domestic conditions like in your country?
Well, you have one major concern. Which money does they have in the pocket? Where is the money coming from? I spoke to you about the minimum wage. We're all aware of the economic downturn based on COVID and the war in Russia and Ukraine. Sorry. When you look at the economic climate, it's tough times for everybody. So if you are aware where's the money, well, you maybe could point a lot of Dominicans down that area, because as well, we have seen a lot for the last festival, Creole Music Festival, which is one of our premier products, and that brings a lot of visitors to our shores. We saw a lot of tickets being distributed to patrons, to Dominicans, to ensure that they could attend the shows. So the purchasing power is not there. We see a lot of money being given to individuals so that they could go through just enough so that they could return for more. That is not a sign of a really thriving economy. That is a sign of someone who is using their influence to buy over what so-called political love, and it's not in the right direction. And I just hope that Dominicans could stand up and realize that they are being taken advantage of.
Yeah. Quick one on the recently concluded festival, Clement. How concerned are you that an international arc can receive a bill of 1.1 million US and your national bands in Dominica don't get such a handsome payout at all?
And that is one, if you follow my presentations in Parliament, that is one of the areas that I continue to ask that we seriously look into, because our festivals are supported and really marketed by our local bands. And being a musician myself, it would be of great concern to me, because for example, Colton T, and I really want to take that opportunity to really commend this young man. His performances are up to par. His quality, his lyrics are up to par, and I have not seen any real bias towards helping the breakthrough and get onto the world stage. And as a country, we need to be able to show those clear paths for our young people. By now, music should be part of our export strategy. And I am not saying, I haven't seen any conscious and concerted effort at doing such, and we can only ask for better for our musicians. Yes, the international artists would come at a very top price, but our people, unless we can show that we have the ability to push our people up to that level, there's always going to be a trading balance in our festival, where the international community or the international acts get the greater piece of the pie. We continue to contribute to capital flight and not really invest significantly into the lives of our young people.
Just a few more domestic matters for me, and then because we're slowly winding down, and Mr. Linton is already starting, I'm told by my producers. Talk to me about CIP in Dominica, because your Prime Minister touts the CIP receipt, saying that he's recently built you a new hospital, and he has built some looking homes, if we have to take the pictures online for what they represent on the ground.
This is one of the issues that we continue to ask for transparency. We continue to ask whether these resources are being adequately managed. Yes, they are used to develop for the benefit of the country, but we also ask for how is it being used? Is it being used in the right way? We haven't seen, since the implementation of the program, the development of any factory. We haven't seen the improvement in the salaries. We haven't seen the improvement in the minimum wage. We haven't seen any improvement in what you consider as the holistic development of the Dominican person as a being. We may play or give them kudos for trying to build certain health centers in certain areas, but the most important part of it, that is really the superficial part of it. We need to go in depth. How is it that these resources, from this country resources, are being used for the advancement of our people, and why is it so opaque? We need to have that level of transparency to ensure that Dominica is getting the best from its resources. We need to look at the return on those investments and how it will improve the life of the ordinary man. That money can't continue to circulate in the top echelons of our society. It needs to trickle down to the grassroots, and not just trickle down in a form of giving you a building. And then the next question is, where do I get a meal? We need to be able to empower our people, that they in turn are empowered to do the things that they can do for themselves, not just dependent on a social or safety net by the government, but they can move forward into prosperity. And these are some of the main concerns that we have. And finally, the other concern is that the revenues are, over the last couple of years, have been on the decline, and we have seen certain challenges that have been placed after after further restrictions on the program. So how are we now as a nation left to go through these ominous times, and then considering that we're not even sure how the efficacy of the whole the program itself as it relates to the development of the ordinary man.
CIP still, Clement, because you've been in the business of citizenship by investment long before us here in St. Lucia. When you look at where majority of your applicants are coming from, the downward turn that you just pointed to in the receipts, the money, the revenue coming into CIP, and even the use of those funds, in your country, what lessons are there for us in St. Lucia and other countries in the Caribbean who are just now tapping into the CIP program?
Firstly, it needs to be managed well. It needs to be managed and be a transparent process, because there can be attendant benefits. However, if it's not done right at the first instance, you are opening yourself to a lot that you may not be able to control, and it's really meting out your citizenship as a sovereign nation to foreigners. Then you find that question of land acquisition, where the local man is restricted to a small lot, but those with the larger buying power are able to purchase the prime land, and because there's the risk of running your citizens into to the second tier of your society, and being the ones who are originally or born up in this country. So it is something that you have to manage with very cautious steps, but I wouldn't recommend you just jumping into it blindly.
Mm-hmm. Let me hold the discussion regionally for a bit, Clement, as we wind down. Over the years, 20 or so years, we've seen a number of Caribbean regional institutions really lose their footing, and we have digressed in the region with our performance in sports and other areas. The current crop of leaders within the Caribbean not monitoring the situation or not doing the right thing for the Caribbean, you think? Because we seem to be going back as opposed to forward progressing.
In sports?
Sports, and the number of institutions as well across the Caribbean. Right. Look at aviation, civil aviation. Look at the whole push for regional integration that we've talked about for 20 plus years. We haven't been able to really go beyond the rhetoric.
You see, that is one of my major concerns with most our leaders in the region. They look at the system as fragments. If you are looking at it in that way, then there's no way you're going to improve the entire system. It's just like a guy. It is comparable to a young man who decides he's going to turbocharge his car. You may go faster, but have aspects of it. It's a whole system, and you have to look at it in a holistic way. So, for example, in sports, there's a tendency that sports in many of the Caribbean islands are still considered as a recreational activity. Sports is a multi-million business, and we need to be able to put further investments into those areas. Because guess what? When a young man can channel his energies into something positive, you expect to find a decrease in the crime rate in your country. If people are given equal opportunities, if there's a greater emphasis on technical and vocational skills, if you have those steady plans designed to really empower the ordinary people, to give the people an opportunity to really express themselves freely and contribute to our society, we won't be in the situation that we have found ourselves. For example, we have LIAT. We all can feel the squeeze in regional travel, and regional business is impacted because of that vacuum that has been created because of LIAT's absence. And we need, as a region, need to consider as well those particular areas within our society are so very important in ensuring that the connection remains between our people. We may have tours where relationships are formed between different people who may not have ordinarily met each other at any point in time. Sports can bring that as well. The ease of travel can really ensure that our people remain connected, our values remain strong, and our culture is protected for the future.
Two more questions from me just before those. Some more feedback online. Good job, my brother Clement. Peter Thomas is over in Dominica as well. Somebody's also saying, great job, Clement. That's Sandra Green. Good morning, Sandra, and everyone across Dominica. I can listen to Clement all day. He's focused, highlighting the issues, giving recommendations. That's refreshing. Dominica, that is the leadership you all should gravitate to. Somebody, Duke is hailing you up. Duke Severa is hailing you up. Hail up, Clement. Two more questions from me, and then we close the discussion. I'm sure we'll have you back in the not too distant future. Something just tells me. Prime Minister was recently here in St. Lucia at the Conference of Delegates of the ruling St. Lucia Labour Party, encouraging the comrades there to protect the victory. Us here in St. Lucia, our little 238 square miles, based on what you've seen happening in your Dominica, the close relationship between the two prime ministers, Dominica and St. Lucia, how concerned should our citizens here on St. Lucia be?
Well, I think he just dealt a major blow to himself. If the St. Lucians were entrusting of his word to really help your prime minister, right now, when you look at his actions, I'm certain that a lot of them are now questioning, really, should I follow that advice or is it the wrong advice? With the track record of the prime minister, I'm not too sure how wise it would be to really take that advice. However, your country, I want to commend you all. I've been noticing for a while, and even in interaction with one of your ministers, the Minister of Sports, the young man himself, your country has been devoid of fear of changing our government. Once it doesn't work for you, you are able and you are willing to go and to see what's the new horizon, what's at the new horizon, and that is a sign of a real, true democracy and the strength. And why St. Lucia has been able to become one of the largest economies in the OECS. That is kudos. I really want to commend you all for being bold, being strong, and really lives within your people and not the people in power.
Yeah. Thanks for that, Clement. I know many St. Lucians appreciate that as well. I'll give you the last 60 seconds, young man, to speak to the Dominican people. Your Prime Minister said going to the polls December the 6th. Today, the United Workers' Party and other interests will gather in Roseau. Your final opportunity to engage the good citizens of the Commonwealth of Dominica.
I just want to remind our people that we are peaceful people. We are our brother's keepers. We are the ones who stand collectively. Even in the case of, I think one thing we should recall, that case of Konisha Etienne, where everyone in the island came in to unify for one purpose, which was finding this young lady. This is a similar approach that I would really ask our people to take. Be calm, ensure that there is peace, and we come together to ask for justice. And that is one of the main areas I want to remind every conscious Caribbean person, that we all need to stand up and ask for our sister country, or my country, right, rather, to ensure that we remain on a course of development, we remain on the right focus, and that we can see that the light is at the end of the tunnel, and that gloomy and ominous days that we are currently experiencing, and I'm hoping that the better days will come shortly, and that at the end of it, we all will reap a bountiful harvest.
Clement, thanks. That's a nice way to end. In 2019, our Deputy Prime Minister in Roseau said that the unrest happening in Dominica at the time was planned in St. Lucia. Someone is intimating now that the political strategy you see happening in Dominica was planned here in St. Lucia as well. Just thought I stick that in here. You represented yourself well. Thank you for coming on this morning. Breath of fresh air, if you ask me, from my humble opinion. You, to me, reflect the image of the new Prime Minister over in Grenada, and his vibes and movement as well. That's Prime Minister Dickon Mitchell. With that, Sussex Bird is telling me again that we'll have you back in the not too distant future.
But before I go, I just want to put in one slight correction. I am the reflection of what the people have instilled in me, what they have wanted me to be, so I can't be representing myself. I always represent the people, no matter what it is. Thank you.
You're most welcome. Well said, Clement, and we'll talk again soon. Former Senator, concerned citizen, member of the United Workers' Party. He is tipped, by the way, to contest the leadership of the United Workers' Party. He's getting good support from fellow Dominicans who follow the broadcast online. We say hi to each and every one of you. Duke Sevre, good morning. Good morning to Bernadette Shillingford as well, who's saying great leadership. And Josie Sevre as well is on there. Miss Banis, thank you for all Dominicans who have tuned in. Lennox Linton comes on next to continue the discussion. Again, we did plan to balance the arguments, so we had on our schedule this morning the Honorable Alex Boyd Knight, Speaker Emerita, but she cancelled at the last minute. That's fine with us, and we'll continue the discussion in just a bit with the political leader of the United Workers' Party over in Dominica, Mr. Lennox Linton. The phone lines remain open. Big shouts to Tony. Tony is a spirit man in Dominica. He is in Goodwill, Dominica, but I'm trying to get the community in particular. Just below Tarish, Clement, help me out. The community just below Tarish Pit and below Jolly Lane. What's that community known as?
This is Gota.
Gota. Yeah, Gota. Excellent. Thanks for coming on, and we'll talk soon. Let's take a quick commercial break. Our time, just about 5 minutes across St. Lucia and the Eastern Caribbean. When we come back, Lennox Linton will be my very special guest.